a lot of people are missing out on very valuable information when they give out this Wi-Fi for free, because you have a captive audience there. You have someone that's using it that's probably going to be bad. So, in our captive portal, like I said, we capture a name, email address, and device information. So you can use that if you do have a marketing team or a marketing arm or a marketing firm that you use. You can download this list and say, hey, I know these people come here because I have them on my Wi-Fi system. Market to them, send them a 5% off or 10% off coupon for Wednesday.
Can you even just explain what is ransomware and how does it work? So
how ransomware works is technical parlance, we call them a threat actor, a hacker. Hackers, this is what they do. They know these exploits, they know these vulnerabilities, they know these versions. So they find you, gain access to your system, and essentially shut you out. And they display a message on the screen that says, hey, if you want access to your point of sale system or your credit card readers, pay me $2,000 in Bitcoin. Send it to this address. And you literally can do absolutely nothing until you pay these people and they send you a code to unlock your system.
Listen, it's not something that's ever talked about, but I think it's happening already, and it's going to happen more and more as we rely more and more on technology. Again, that sort of blessing and curse of technology. We've got to make sure we're buttoning everything up, running, professionalizing our business, and that's a huge part of that. Is that part of the services you offer of, like, if somebody does do something malicious, like you personally will come find them? Because you're a scary looking dude. And if I put a poster up that says, hey, you do something crazy on my Wi-Fi, this guy's coming to find you.
That might be a off the books type of service we can offer, but officially, no, that is not part of the plan.
Okay. All right.
If you're close enough, I might can do something for you.
That's hilarious. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jordan with the Laundromat Resource Podcast. This is show 185, and I'm pumped you're here today because today we have back on the show Shawn Dandridge, who is here to show you the ways that your laundromat is vulnerable in ways that maybe you didn't realize, you didn't even understand. So we're going to jump into that with Shawn right now. But for today's quick fast lane tip, make sure that you are signed up on our email list. Go join the free online community we have going on over there, and make sure you are getting in there because we've got stuff going out every single week. They're going to help you improve your business. So head over to laundromatresource.com/join and sign up for a free membership over there and come get the benefits of joining our community. All right, let's jump into it with Shawn Dandridge. All right, we're back on with Shawn. How's it going, man?
Good. It's nice to be here yet again. I'm looking forward to it.
Dude, listen, I have two regrets in my whole life, and one is waiting this long to have you back on, and two is in our last episode, we talked about launching a podcast together, and we haven't done it yet. So those are my only two regrets in life at this point in time.
Well, we're pretty close. We're doing another episode, and I know the last one was very fun. We talked about how my laundromat was destroyed 3 weeks after I bought it from a storm in Dallas. Like, could you have any worse luck? So I'm glad to be back with you. It's always a good time, and looking forward to what we have to talk about today.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave a link in the show notes page for anybody who wants to go back and listen to that train wreck of a experience you had. But it was a really fun episode. We had a really great time. So I'm super excited about today. And, before we jump in case anybody hasn't listened to that last episode, give me like a 30-second spiel of you and your background and how you got into the business.
Yeah, let me give you my 30-second elevator pitch here. So, Shawn Dandridge, like I said, former laundromat owner. I don't own any stores today, but my passion has always been technology. So that's what brings me here today. In my day-to-day real life, I'm a senior technology executive, Fortune 500 companies, worked at a couple of those where I manage enterprise networks and telecoms for like I said, Fortune 500 billion-dollar corporations. And how I got here with you today is I did buy a store a few years ago, and the first thing I noticed is the intersection of technology and laundromats. It was very far apart. There was no intersecting. So, you buy a bunch of equipment, a bunch of IoT equipment, which is the Internet of Things, which is basically means interconnected equipment that you can control from your phone, like your Nest cameras and all that type of stuff. And what I noticed very quickly is they can sell you all of it, but no one can really give you any guidance on how to set it up, manage it, or install it. So that's how I came up with the idea of Laundry Tech, to kind of help bridge that gap between owners who have no idea about technology and owners that want to use technology and people that just sell it.
Yeah, and it's a huge gap, right? Like that's a big gap. And I talk all the time and with other guests and stuff too. And we've talked, not on the podcast a lot of just, even since you bought your first one in the last 5 years, like technology has been sort of pouring into this industry in a lot of different ways. But what has not been following suit is kind of all the things you were talking about, like, how do we set it up? How do we install it? How do we make sure that we're protecting ourselves, our businesses, the money we're managing, our customers' money, our customers' credit card information, like all that stuff.
Right.
Is even our security cameras and our internet, public internet and private internet, like all that stuff. Like, I mean, nobody's talking about any of that part. And just as technology continues to roll out, that stuff is going to be more and more critical for our businesses. So that's, I think, what we're here to talk about today, right?
Yeah, and this is the stuff that runs your business, how you make your money. But as you get more interconnected, you depend on this stuff. So what used to be a novelty, where offering free Wi-Fi used to be just, a thing just to pull customers in. You have to have the internet in your store now, not just to offer free Wi-Fi, but to run your actual business. So I think, it's kind of lost on laundromat owners because technology has been so non-existent in the space forever. So as more, I call it technology creep, as it creeps into your daily lives and your daily operations, and you upgrade machines and they essentially tell you if you don't have an internet connection, cannot operate this, you're going to have to start making some hard decisions and upgrading this network infrastructure that you have. And I think that's where we're at. I think owners are realizing that now. I think they're interested in this stuff. They just don't know where to go or what approach to take, because there's no one size fits all. What works for your store may not work for mine, and may not work for the guy down the street. So it really has to be tailored to what you're looking to get out of a solution, how much you're willing to spend, of course, and what are your goals for your business.
Yeah, which is huge, right? Well, let's talk technology just for a second. And I know you're coming from corporate IT
Right.
over here, and we're talking mom and pop stuff. And a lot of this stuff, I mean, listen, even something as simple as internet can be overwhelmingly complex to the layperson.
It is, because you could have 10 different choices based on internet providers. But what a lot of people don't realize, because you would never know this unless you're in IT, there's really only, you might have 10 choices, but there's only 2 or 3 underlying carriers that will supply even those 2 or 3. But you would never know that. If you just see the cheapest price on the top, oh, that's what I'm going to go with. But even picking an internet connection, there's a lot that goes into that, because you should know those underlying carriers. Well, not you, the customer, but someone that you consult with, or an IT expert, to say, don't go with those guys. They have aging infrastructure in this area that you're in. You should probably go with these guys. And that's things you don't know until you buy it and it doesn't work, and you're down on a Saturday and you're not making any money.
Yeah. Well, nothing is more as somebody who has an online business over here. When I was in Europe a couple summers ago, I was in some spots that didn't have great internet, and there is nothing more frustrating than having the wrong internet for your needs.
Right.
It felt like I was back in the late 90s with my dial-up internet, waiting for things to kind of load up. So
it's like you're disconnected from the entire world and nobody knows you exist anymore.
That's right. That's right. It's not a good feeling, man. Not a good feeling. Yeah. Well, I mean, you talked about sort of interconnected thing. Like, what do you mean by that in the context of laundromats, right? Like, I've been really talking a lot about technology because I'm really trying to convey to owners like, hey, this stuff is here and more is coming, and if you don't keep up with it, you're gonna get left behind. But the learning curve can feel really overwhelming for a lot of people. So can we just start with like, what do you mean by interconnected technology in the context of a laundromat?
Okay, so interconnected, simplest definition is everything connects together. But in the terms of a laundromat, that's, say you buy brand new shiny washers and dryers, and the sales guy comes to you and he says, oh yeah, you can control these things from your phone, you don't have to be here. If you have a problem, you don't need anyone here to fill out a slip of paper and leave it in the box for a refund anymore. So what that means is, okay, I have these machines, I have to connect them to a network, which then connects to a point of sale system or some type of payment system, which then connects to my internet connection there. And then me as the operator, I probably have an app or something on my phone that connects back to the laundromat so I can access these systems to see how much money I made, if I have any problems. So just right there, you have a connection between the washers. You have a switch or some network stack somewhere in your laundromat that connects to the outside internet, and your phone is connecting back that stack in your laundromat. So you have a lot of different elements there that you have to take into account to, one, secure, two, to make sure they all work, and three, you have to provide this continuous service to your customers to ensure that they can use this technology, this systems in your store whenever, 24/7, or whenever you're open.
Yeah. And as all this, I mean, we're seeing this in our houses too, right? Like as more of this kind of technology comes out, it's like the blessing and the curse of technology, right? One of the things we talk about is, technology gives us the ability to manage from afar, to not have to be on location a lot. It gives us the ability to collect and analyze more data. It gives us, the ability to provide a better customer experience, to be able to, solve problems kind of remotely. Like all these things and manage more locations more efficiently. Like all these things are all the benefits of technology. But then there's the other side, which is kind of what you're getting at, is something has to manage all that technology and make sure it's all working together properly, and make sure the people who should be using it are using it, and the people who shouldn't be accessing it are not accessing it. Right.
That's exactly right. So, there's a couple of different elements to that. Could someone go out and possibly do this themselves? Yes. I mean, YouTube University, I could go out and buy my own router or switch and do this myself. Yeah, you could. But are you really going to do it in a way that's going to protect not only your business and your source of revenue, but also your customers? Because what a lot of small businesses think is, oh, I'm just some little store on the corner. Hacker doesn't care about me, which is not true at all. Because, if you just break it down into common sense, am I going to go after enterprise corporation that spends $10 million a year on security? Or am I going to go after little shop over here that has 5 or 10 stores that spends nothing, and I could, proposition them for ransomware of, hey, pay me $1,000 or I'm going to shut down your store. So I'm probably going to go over there and do $1,000 100 times than spending all my time over here with $1 billion corporation who's probably going to stop me before I get any useful information.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where, I mean, it can kind of feel a little overwhelming, right? Is like, okay, how do we, not that we're competing with corporations or corporate America, but how do we get that kind of protection when I'll just be frank, like I think most of us don't understand a lot of this stuff. And we're talking about very, very basic stuff right now. We're talking about internet connections, right? Mm-hmm. That's all we're talking about basically, right? So, I think it gets really overwhelming to even YouTube University, yes. And I do think that, probably some people listening to this right now will be like, you know what, I need to do a better job of this in my business. And they're going to go out on YouTube University or whatever, or maybe they already know it and they're going to implement some of these things we're talking about on their own, and they're going to be able to figure that out. But even knowing what things to figure out is overwhelming, I think, for a lot of us.
Right. And a lot of that is, every use case is different. It's not, you can do some cookie cutter things, change the default passwords. Everyone can do that,
right.
But
change the default passwords, people.
Please. Yes. I can't tell you. I did an experiment when I first bought my store. I just drove around Dallas to different laundromats to see what could I do. It was scary. It was very scary that more often than not, the default password was not changed. And more often than not, the default password was sitting on the counter to, hey, access my free Wi-Fi. Here it is. And, the big problem with that is, yes, Wi-Fi is a service you offer to your customers. It gets them to dwell longer in the store. That's great. But a lot of things that the biggest security threat that I've seen with that is, not only are you giving them access to your free Wi-Fi, you're also giving them access to your point of sale systems because they're all on the same network. And that's, network basics 101. Everything should be segmented. So your payment system should not be able to talk to your guest Wi-Fi. Your guest Wi-Fi, your payment system should not be able to talk to your security system. And that keeps some bad actor from gaining access using Laundromat 123 as your password to just sitting in there and doing whatever they want to, because no one's really going to question anybody on a busy Saturday that's just sitting over in the corner with a laptop and he's doing whatever he wants to. And you could have all types of files that are sensitive in nature on these computers. And all it took me was coming in the store and saying, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? And now I have access to everything.
Okay, so before everybody panics, what's the solution in that? I think a lot of people are listening to this being like, what are you talking about? Like, that's exactly how I'm set up. That I've got one system for everything. So what's the solution for that in that scenario?
So that's actually very easy to solve. So what we offer here at Laundrotech, we have routers and switches that will segment your networks for you. So I know most people can, I just went to Best Buy and bought me a wireless access point. Yeah, that works for the application that you're trying to do, get connectivity to your machines to the internet. But as far as security, they're not built for that. They're built for, your house. And quite honestly, even, residential technology shouldn't be doing that now either. But what we're offering is enterprise grade networking solutions. So what that means is your internet connection connects to a firewall. A firewall is exactly what it sounds like, a wall between you and the outside world. So your internet connection connects. We set up settings that limit what people can access. We segment your network for you. So wireless over here, point of sale system here, security cameras here. And these networks will never talk to each other. So if one guy, is on your guest Wi-Fi and he's snooping around, he's just going to see other iPhones and Androids, which are of no value to him. So that is the most basic thing we can do. And also enterprise grade Wi-Fi. So instead of having, okay, if you want Wi-Fi, here's our password, we have it's called a captive portal. So what essentially it does, it makes you sign up, it makes you give credentials. So It's not just anyone with the password that gets on it. I will know your name, your email address, and your device ID. So if you do something malicious, I can come find you, or I have enough information to at least give to the police to say, hey, I got this information on this guy. And, through databases that the cell company keeps, it's not hard to track you down if I have your phone device ID. So, and that limits probably a bad actor from coming in there if you have that type of stuff.
Is that part of the services you offer of like if somebody does do something malicious, like you personally will come find them? Because you're a scary looking dude. And if I put a poster up that says, hey, you do something crazy on my Wi-Fi, this guy's coming to find you.
That might be a off the books type of service we can offer, but officially, no, that is not part of the plan.
Okay. All right.
If you're close enough, I might can do something for you.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, and I think that, just, talking about that one small thing, right, is, I think a lot of owners are doing exactly what you're saying not to do, right? Of just here's the password. And, even, I know you sign up with Spectrum or kind of whoever, you can get a router that, can allow you to partition and sometimes maybe they might help you set that up. My experience has varied with the amount of support that you get on that kind of thing.
Yeah, most of those guys, the support that you get, they're reading from a script and they really don't know the advanced settings or even what your situation is. Because if they're not there with you and they don't know what you have there and what you're really trying to do, they're just going to tell you, oh yeah, set up, you can create a guest Wi-Fi and an employee Wi-Fi and everything's great. But a lot of times those two networks share the same, like really technically, but same IP range. So what that means, essentially what that means is they're on the same network. They may have two separate names, two separate passwords, but they're the same network at the end of the day. So that doesn't really help you. It might make you feel good because you have Jordan's employees and Jordan's guest, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Well, okay. Listen, we're talking about a basic building block of our businesses now, which is
right.
Wi-Fi or internet, right? Like what other kinds of things do we need to be aware of here? What other kinds of things do we need to be paying attention to on the tech side, either to help our businesses run more efficiently or, on that security side of things?
So I think, what a lot of small businesses don't realize is once you enter the accepting the credit card payment systems arena, you're under a whole different set of rules. There's regulatory compliance that you have to comply with. It's called PCI, and that means payment card industry standards. So in order to accept a credit card, Visa, MasterCard, you have to comply with some of these basic things to keep customer data safe. And one of these, every service is different, but they all have a basic questionnaire. Like when you sign up for their service, they ask you, do you have a router? Did you reset your default passwords? And you have to click yes, I did to these. And more often than not, the people clicking yes to those first probably have no idea what they're clicking yes to. Because if you go out and poll 100 laundromat owners and ask them what is a firewall, you would probably get 100 out of 100 that would fail. So you're agreeing to these things that really open you up to legal liability. Because if there is a major hacking incident or major ransomware incident, and you get a class action lawsuit against you, that could destroy your business because you are legally liable for what happens because you have chosen to accept payment cards as payment for your services. And I don't think a lot of owners realize the ramifications and the responsibility that comes with that.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that, we've been talking about this this service that you're offering here, but we've been talking about it for a couple of years. Now, one of the reasons I've been encouraging you to do it and wanted to have you on is because one of my goals for this industry is that we professionalize more, right? I think we're doing that as an industry overall. Like, we're professionalizing our industry more. And you threw out a term earlier that I feel like can feel overwhelming or something to a lot of owners. You said something along the lines of having enterprise quality security or whatever it was, enterprise quality something, right? And when I hear enterprise quality, I'm hearing, big dollar sign. Like you said, some of these guys will drop $100,000 a month, and it's not even, they don't even, like, they could drop it on the ground and not really realize they lost it, right? Yep. It's like not a big deal for them.
Rounding error.
Yeah, exactly. Rounding error. And obviously, like, that's not the case for most or probably any laundromat, right? Like, yep. That's not going to be the case, right? So, however, one of the, going back to like the pluses and minuses of technology, one of the beauties of technology is that as technology develops, we as small business owners get more and more access to enterprise quality, enterprise level tools and resources at a price point that we can incorporate into our budgets, right? Like, technology is deflationary. So as prices come down, we have more and more access. I think AI is a great example of that. We have access to AI for free or very cheap and can do a whole lot of things that we're not really doing anything with, most of us. But that professionalism of this business, this is a huge piece of that, right? You cannot run a professional business if you're not taking care of your business's security, your customer security. And you mentioned this PCI, right? Like, we were talking about it a little bit before we started recording, and you were just kind of rattling off some of the questions. And I was like, I think most owners are going to answer no, like, I'm not doing that, or I'm not paying. I don't even know what that is, right? To a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. And, one of the questions is access to payment systems only by authorized employees. One of those is if you only have one username and password that you're giving to everybody, again, you're not you're not doing that. And the biggest one that I have never seen, written security policy for handling transactions. I don't know a laundromat in existence that has that. I'm sure I could be wrong, but I've never seen one.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a small minority.
Right.
I will tell you that.
Probably
for sure.
If a large chain that's owned by a larger conglomerate probably has that. But, smaller ones, that highly doubt it. So,
yeah. And so what, I mean, I'm not trying to like throw you softballs here, but like, why is this important to us? Like, being able to check these boxes off and actually know what we're checking off here.
Well, the first thing is you have to limit exposure to your own business because, like I said, you can be held fully liable for all of this stuff. Now, the reality is, if somebody, that happens, they come in with stolen credit cards and they do laundry, are they going to come after you? No. But if your payment processor is hacked and someone that has enough knowledge says, oh, I go to this laundromat around the corner and I know they use that system, I can join this class action lawsuit too. They start telling everyone that goes to your laundromat, hey, you go there, you can join too. So eventually you're going to get wrapped up into this, and you're probably going to get a subpoena in the mail that says, hey, I got 50 or 75 or 100 of your customers says they got hacked on the Sunday morning that they used your laundromat. So a lot of laundromat, first, they don't have the budget for, litigation and lawyers to even go against one of these professional firms, which is all they do is sue businesses and look for whatever violations that they can find. And I think the second thing is it's just, security for you, peace of mind for you. you know that you're doing everything that you can to protect your source of revenue as well as your customers, and you're also rolling out the latest and greatest technology and not having. I guess the threat will always be there from these ransomware guys because they're just relentless, but you're less of a target. If they see you, oh, this guy really has like a firewall here that's set up properly and he's not using the Linksys password that came on the box. Like, I'm not going to waste time with him. I'm going to go somewhere else. So basically what you're trying to do is reduce your threat footprint of, like, you don't want to be just the easy guy out there. There's enough easy guys, so they're not going to bother you if you're doing it, everything or a lot of this stuff that we're rattling off here.
Yeah. And it's listen, we're seeing a lot of right now, like all over the place. We're seeing a lot of like ADA lawsuits, right? Where these lawyers, they find somebody and who they can use as a client, and they go around to all these businesses, laundromats included, looking for any ADA violations, right? Your folding table is not low enough for wheelchair access, or your parking lot doesn't have a handicap spot, or it doesn't have one that has the space next to it so that a ramp can fold down next to the van, or whatever there's wheelchair access
Right.
problems or whatever it is, right? Like, we're seeing a lot of that happening right now all over, especially in California, and that's kind of what we do over here. But we're seeing a lot of that happen, and I'm not necessarily saying that it's necessarily a bad thing that we're being pressured to be more ADA compliant, because I mean, listen, we need to do everything we can do to help all of our customers
Right.
be able to do their stuff. However, we're seeing it happen in a very predatory way where it's basically a money grab, right?
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, or I haven't seen it yet, there's going to be money grabs online. I mean, even just ADA compliant, being ADA compliant with your website, like 98% of websites are not ADA compliant. And guess what? When you're, and this is separate from what you guys do, I think,
Right.
but when you have a website that's not ADA compliant, you open yourself up to the lawsuit, and now nobody has to drive around town to find out if you're not ADA compliant. They can create a bot that drives around the internet 24/7 looking for websites to roll up, right? And
along the same veins of this, technology, it's going to be the next frontier in this evolution of this easy money, because they know that a lot of these businesses don't have the expertise and probably don't want to spend the money to do it. So this is just going to be easy stuff that they can just go after. And as far as small businesses, ransomware attacks are up 300% year over year. So the hackers know, oh man, why are we wasting our time on these big companies that probably aren't going to pay us anymore because they now have dedicated teams and ransomware insurance and backups that, oh, I don't have to pay you. I'll just take these systems offline, rebuild them, and go on about my day. But there was a huge ransomware hack in 2023 of a big laundry manufacturing, I guess, provider, we'll say. And they had no backups, no redundant systems, and they took tens of thousands of locations offline. So they rent equipment to apartment complexes and things like that, and they were totally shut down until they paid this ransom, because they had no backups, no redundant systems, and they were literally at the mercy of whoever these hackers were until they paid. And they ultimately paid because they didn't have a choice. So I think we're going to see an increase in that, because they know that Shawn's Laundromat on the corner probably doesn't have redundant systems, and I'm going to pay because this is what I do and I don't have another choice. So I think, the ADA thing, this is just the next evolution into, easy money grab for whoever's there for the taking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think this is why this is like really timely for me, and why I was excited for you to come on is because this stuff is happening, right? And, I know with like the ADA stuff that's been happening over the last few years,
And let me
most
tell
of
you,
the time, go ahead.
you probably know someone in the laundromat industry that this has happened to, but it's very underreported because who wants to be the guy that's like, oh, I got hacked? That even in corporate America where I work at every day, there's certain parameters that you can etch around it so you don't have to report this to your shareholders.
Mhm.
It happens much more often to big and small companies than you realize, but just based on, the legalese of getting around this stuff that you don't have to report it. So
Yeah.
it's probably already happening, and you just, all these outages that some of these payment systems probably has, they're probably not really outages. They're probably dealing with some type of ransomware event, and they just don't want to release that because then, all their customers are like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not dealing
Yeah.
with this.
You
So,
lose all trust. You
right,
lose all trust.
exactly.
Yeah. And that'll happen too. And what I was starting to say is a lot of times, they're being smart about it, right? They're not out there trying to bankrupt you. They're saying, hey, $10, $15, $20,000, is what they're asking for in like these lawsuits or these ransomware, events or whatever for these small businesses where it's like, they get a quick payday. You're really like, okay, listen, I'm going to pay that much for a lawyer. I don't know what else to do. I'll just pay it. And so it's
It's
just
annoying.
quick,
I'll
easy
pay it.
money.
You move
Yeah.
on.
It's not gonna bankrupt you, but you're gonna pay it.
Yeah.
Right. And listen, like that kind of stuff, like you said, like I think that stuff is happening a lot more than we're hearing about. Not just in our industry, but all over.
Yeah.
And we only hear about it when it happens to like Target or something, right? Like
Right.
some massive credit card breach or something like that, right? But real quick, I mean, listen, we've been talking about all this. Can you just go back to the beginning, just so everybody's on the same page? Can you even just explain what is ransomware and how does it work?
So how ransomware works is technical parlance, we call them a threat actor, a hacker. Everyone knows what a hacker is, right? A hacker finds a way into some system that through some vulnerability they can exploit. So whether that's a computer that hasn't been updated as far as patching, you get those notifications on you update your Windows machine with the latest version of patching, and you just click, oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to restart. So eventually that stuff gets out of date. Or you're using, or we'll go back to the router from Best Buy example. Yeah, you buy that router in, February. Usually when you buy technology from a store, it's already out of date because they ship it with a certain firmware. And usually you'll get a message that says, update your firmware because it's out of date. A lot of people don't do that. So hackers, this is what they do. They know these exploits, they know these vulnerabilities, they know these versions. So they find you, gain access to your system, and essentially shut you out. And they display a message on the screen that says, hey, if you want access to your point of sale system or your credit card readers, pay me $2,000 in Bitcoin, send it to this address. And you literally can do absolutely nothing until you pay these people and they send you a code to unlock your system. That's what ransomware is.
Yeah.
They're holding
Dirty
your business
business.
for ransom.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Dirty business there. Yeah. Well, and listen, it's not something that's ever talked about. But I think it's happening already, and it's going to happen more and more as we rely more and more on technology. Again, that sort of blessing and curse of technology. We've got to make sure we're buttoning everything up, running, professionalizing our business, and that's a huge part of that. One thing we were talking about too before we hit record here is we're just kind of talking about the industry in general. And you were mentioning, I agree with you, and I've said this before too, of like we see this industry starting to consolidate more and more, whereas there's less and less onesie twosie store owners and more owners owning more. Can you just talk about like, okay, let's say I have a portfolio of 10, 20, 50 laundromats. Like, talk to me about everything we're talking about right now in that context, if I'm that store owner or I'm that company that owns that, what do I need to be thinking about? Or if that's my goal, right? I did a survey. I've mentioned this before. I did a survey before and was like, how many laundromats do you want to own? And overwhelmingly, it was 10 plus laundromats. It was like 80 something percent. I said, I want to own 10 plus laundromats, right? So if that's my goal, what do I need to be thinking about with all this stuff?
So, just based on the economies of scale, the more you own, the easier this kind of gets, because you can kind of cookie cutter it, and you can centralize a lot of these things. So, for example, my background is working in these major companies that have 300, 3,000 locations. We could centralize a lot of this stuff. We would have what we call at a remote office or a laundromat that's somewhere. We could have your typical router, your switch, and your Wi-Fi, your access points. But as far as the security of all of it, we can centralize that into a data center. We can have our advanced, intrusion protection, which looks at all the traffic for malware, which is basically a virus, and things like that. It can expect the traffic before it sends it back out to the internet. So as you move up in stores, you can actually centralize a lot of these things. You can take advantage of having these 10 stores by using this technology that traditionally is for enterprise, but now I think where the price points are at on a lot of this stuff, if you have a large footprint like a 10 or 20 stores, this is where you would see the best benefit for your money. And as far as security, you could do more things like inspect the traffic, do role-based access. So John can't have the same access as Susie that's just a tech in a store that folds laundry. Like, why does she need access to the point of sale system when all she does is wash laundry? Or if you have a manager, they have access to everything, but you have an assistant manager that you may have give access on certain days or things like that. So you can really start to segment things as you expand and centralize what your technology stack and what your security is.
So do I, like, if I own one, maybe two, maybe three stores, I mean, is this something that I need to spend any time on, or how much time, or like how important is it if I own like 1, 2, 3 stores?
I think at the store level, it's still very important. I still think you should fortify what you have. I would still recommend a, enterprise grade firewall, a switch, and enterprise grade, wireless access points, because that a lot of the security that we were just talking about centralizing, you can do at those locations. It may not be as robust as, like full-fledged enterprise in a data center, redundant systems and things like that. But what I'm trying to do, if I have 1 or 2 or 3 stores, I'm just trying to stop you from taking me completely down. Even if you log onto my guest Wi-Fi and find some exploit or exploit an update, or you somehow get into my point of sale, VLAN is what we call it. That's a separate network. Okay, you may take down 1 or 2 computers, or if I have a monitoring service, which we also offer, I can see. I was like, oh, this is unusual activity. This is abnormal, and I can shut it off for you. So you may affect 1 or 2 computers or 1 or 2 credit card readers, but you're not taking down my entire store and costing me a day or 2 of revenue. So you're really just trying to limit how much damage they can do in some short amount of time before you're able to either, cut off internet connectivity, kick them out, or remedy whatever situation you have going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is that the basic, like, if there's a basic building block or basic kind of package, is it, just those things like the enterprise quality router, the switch, like, is that the basic building blocks of what I need here?
That's kind of 101. Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of, just having your just consumer stuff off the shelf, I need something that I can do advanced security features on. So that's the captive portal for the Wi-Fi, so I can collect your information. That's separating the network, so I can give you separate networks for your payment systems and your guest Wi-Fi that's remote monitoring. So I don't have the expertise on my staff to monitor this stuff, but I know that someone in some operations center is looking at my network. So, it not only goes back to security, it can monitor your critical applications or critical devices. So if you have 100 credit card readers and someone in that operations center sees one that goes offline, they'll call you and say, hey, I just saw this go offline. Can't necessarily troubleshoot the payment card reader from, you know, but they can tell you, oh, I saw it go offline. Can you call the store? Or they can call the store if that's what you want and say, hey, I saw machine 7 go offline. Did lose power? Did someone unplug it? Is someone tampering with it? So very quickly, you'll know that, hey, I have a problem somewhere. Let me go look. Or even if you don't have someone in the store, you can at least access the security cameras and look. And you may see some guy climbing over the back of the machine doing whatever, but at least you know now. And then someone in that operations center can say, okay, we can turn off that port to that machine because we don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're trying to plug something in to get access to the payment network. So just things like that. Again, you're just trying to limit your exposure to these bad actors of what they're trying to do before they destroy everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good stuff, man. I think that is, like I said, man, I don't hear anybody talking about that hardly ever. And I think it's important now, and it's only going to become more and more important as we go forward. Yep. With our businesses, and especially as, so many of us, our goal is to build a portfolio or build a really large pickup and delivery business where a lot of revenue is coming through our payment systems, whether it be like online payment systems or in-store payment systems, right? And what's the saying? Yeah. More money, more problems, right?
Yeah. And I'll even go even more basic than that, even before we even get to the firewall. What if you have a store that does $1.5 million in revenue a year, and you have a single internet connection that depends on this entire business? So in my industry, we call that disaster recovery, or DR. What do you do if some guy runs into the light pole outside and you don't have internet? That happens all the time. So are you just going to be down for 2 or 3 days or a day and lose all this money? Or at the basics of it, you can incorporate some type of cellular device, 4G or 5G, on top of your primary internet connectivity. So if it goes down, the firewall is smart enough to say, oh, I lost my primary internet connectivity. Let me switch over to this 4G or 5G device. And no one would be the smarter in the store. I mean, all your systems would still work. You can still process payments. You can still remotely manage things. So just basic stuff like that before you even get to like this high tech other stuff. This is just strictly revenue protection that probably every business that is heavily dependent on the wider internet should have.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, I know all of this can feel very overwhelming for a lot of people. This is very like, some of you guys listening are like, yeah, no problem. I'm already doing all this stuff, or I am not doing it, but I should be. I know better. I'm going to implement it. And some of you guys are feeling like this is super overwhelming. Like, I don't even know where to start. But listen, Shawn and I are going to do a live Q&A, number one, where you can, come and ask more questions. If you're, it's kind of one of those no bad question Q&As, right? So if you don't even know what we're talking about, we can back it all the way up to the basics. If you want more advanced stuff, you can talk with Shawn about that. Like, this is an opportunity to figure out how to safeguard your businesses for the right now, but also as we kind of move forward. So make sure you jump onto that Q&A that we're going to do. But also, Shawn, like, if people want more information about this stuff, where can they go to learn more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we have a website, of course, trylaundrytech.com, that has a lot of good information on there. You can also schedule a 30-minute free consultation with me, and we'll just go through, what do you have? I'll just ask you pretty basic questions like here, like, what do you have as far as technology? Do you have a point of sale system? Do you have, washer and dryers that are connected to some type of payment system, or are you looking at that for the future? If we can map out an IT strategy for your business, whether you're there already and you're just looking to upgrade to fortify what you have, or if you're just looking for something totally new.
Yeah. Link will be down below also. And you can listen, at the very least, go do a free consultation call with Shawn and find out, what do I need to do? And then you can determine, is this something I do YouTube University and I do it myself? Or is this something where it just makes sense to offload to the people who know what they're doing?
Yeah.
And then worry about growing my own business. So dude, I appreciate you coming on. Not only, listen, forget about that. I mean, I do appreciate you coming on, but I really appreciate you investing some time into thinking about this for us as we move forward as an industry. And, I know you probably won't be the only player in this in the long run, but listen, you're pioneering something that I don't see anybody else doing on a wide basis. And I think it is super important. I would not have you back on if I did not think it's important. So I do think it's really important stuff here. And so I appreciate you thinking about that, applying your expertise to our industry, which is huge, and trying to push us forward, help us professionalize our businesses. I really do appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and definitely appreciate you having me on. And although we've been talking about the whole security landscape and routers and switches and all that stuff, but we go down to the basics too. If you just need some Cat5 cable ran for some cameras, when I had my own store, and I know how to do this stuff, but some guy that's just bought a laundromat, a zombie mat that has absolutely nothing, and he's looking for this stuff, it's like, where do you start? Where do you find these people? So we can, even as far as putting a jack for Cat5 cable, we can do that nationwide, anywhere. So it's not just this fancy, full stack IT stuff too. We do the easy stuff too, cables, email setup, or you need a domain name bought. We can do that stuff for you too. But I think the stuff that's really going to see a return on your investment is investing in a little bit better equipment mix for your laundromat. And one thing we didn't touch on is with this whole Wi-Fi thing, a lot of people are missing out on very valuable information when they give out this Wi-Fi for free, because you have a captive audience there. You have someone that's using it that's probably going to be back. So, in our captive portal, like I said, we capture a name, email address, and device information. So you can use that if you do have a marketing team or a marketing arm or a marketing firm that you use. You can download this list and say, hey, I know these people come here because I have them on my Wi-Fi system. Market to them, send them a 5% off or 10% off coupon for Wednesday, whatever slow day or whatever you want to do. So not only are you getting this full stack IT thing that's going to protect you, but you're also getting free marketing data that you don't have to pay anybody for, because you already have these people coming into your laundromat. So there's a lot of other elements to this too, that just not only from an IT side, but from something that can also grow your business as well.
Yeah, which is huge. And even that sign up page, you can kick them automatic. Think about, like, I don't know, I've been flying a lot lately, but like I go on an airplane Wi-Fi, right? When I log in, it kicks me to one of their pages where they're trying to sell me stuff or promote their credit card, or
exactly.
you can do that same thing with your business too, right? Have it when they sign in, it first kicks them over to something that promotes your stuff or a service that you offer, or you can even sell that page if you want to as like an advertising page. So when people log in, Tide sends you money or whoever, right? So there's lots of things that you can do marketing wise with a lot of this data too. And we've, probably not for a long time actually, but we talked about that as being a huge missed opportunity for a lot of laundromat owners right now. And I think a big part of that is a lot of people don't know how to set that up. right?
Yep.
So now you've got your solution on how to do that.
Yeah, like I always say, it costs nothing to look. So come on over, get the free phone call. You might like what we say, you may not, but at least you know. I guarantee you will leave more educated about this stuff than when you came, even if you do absolutely nothing with us. And sometimes that's the best you can hope for. That you may hear something that may trigger something. It's like, oh yeah, I heard that crazy guy talk about that, and let me go do that or see about that. So just come by the page, give us a try, sign up for a free 30-minute consultation, and let us see what we can do for you.
Are you the crazy guy in that, or am I the crazy guy? I don't know. Maybe
50,
a little bit of
50,
both.
50,
Yeah, 50-50. Yeah. Well, 50-50, I live or die. Yeah, awesome, dude. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate it. Make sure you guys join us for the live Q&A. We're going to be talking tech and security and kind of all this stuff, delving into your questions. And if you're a total, as my son, I don't even know if he says this. There might be a cooler word now, but he used to say noob. So if you're a total noob and all this stuff, listen, this is the perfect place for you. If you're not a noob, but you're looking to level up your system, level up your security, maybe you've got multiple stores, something like that, and you want to know what options are available, come to that Q&A, and then head over to trylaundrytech.com and book that call with Shawn, because at the very least, you're going to have a good time hanging out with Shawn for a while.
Yeah,
like I always do.
I'm not a bad guy.
Yeah. Well, unless you need to be, right?
Yeah, unless I need to be buy the service on the side, you need me to be a bad guy, then I can do some things.
Can be. Awesome, dude. Well, listen, let's recommit here to our podcast so that next time when you come on, we can lament again that we didn't start.
I love it. Yeah, I'm fully committed at this point.
Me too. I am 100%. So look out for our new podcast coming out probably in the next month or 600. I don't know.
800 years or so.
Yeah. Yeah. But dude, again, I appreciate you, for one, thinking about all this stuff for us and providing the service, but also, dude, I just appreciate you as a person. Thank you for coming on and hanging out with us.
Yeah, I always appreciate you. Love the platform. Love what you've done with Laundromat Resource. And I remember when you first started this thing, and I was like, man, that's a great idea, because like I said, we were talking before, there's still, even today, the information that should be out there is not out there. And I think you and your team are doing a great job of just kind of putting that in one place, offering services for people before they make these $500,000, $1 million investments in things they really don't know a lot about other than what they've seen online. And you're always going to see just the good stuff, not the bad stuff. We were talking about, the guys holding up the piles of money, and like I said, that's literally 30 minutes or an hour out of the entire week. So what else happens during that week? That's what you don't know. And I think you guys do a great job of offering services and, setting up consultations and consulting to help people like really determine, is this what you want to do before you commit this amount of money and this amount of time and effort to something like owning a laundromat.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man. And biggest shout out goes to people like you who come on the podcast, sharing their stories, their experiences, their services that they're offering to try to help make the rest of us better at what we're trying to do, and to the team too. I mean, we got a really great team, a lot of great coaches, consultants, and obviously like the support behind all that, the admins and all that. So
yep.
A lot of great stuff, man. I really appreciate that as well. And let's do this again sometime.
Looking forward to it. Let's not make it 3 years this time, or 2.5, or however long.
That's right. Well, at the very least, we'll hang out in a couple of weeks of that Q&A with the rest of you guys listening, and we'll see you guys then. All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode with Shawn Dandridge. And listen, we have got to start thinking of our little businesses as companies. We've got to start thinking of them that way, and we've got to start acting that way. We've been talking about professionalizing our businesses and our industry. This is a huge aspect of how we need to be doing that. We need to be taking care of ourselves online and having the right technology to help us properly manage our business. So huge shout out to Shawn for thinking about that for us as an industry. Super excited that he's doing that. And hey, reach out to him if you think that is something that you would like some help with. All right, we'll see you next week. Peace.